It's the worst kept secret in football. Liverpool are after a central midfielder this summer. There's been the ongoing saga of Jude Bellingham all season long as to whether he'll make the move to Liverpool, but it looks, for all intents and purposes, like that's not going to materialise. And Liverpool have now a fairly big budget to invest in potentially multiple players, but who might they be? Let's take a look. So before we look at the specific players that Liverpool could sign, I think it's worth looking at the current state of the squad. So in front of me, I've got Liverpool's squad depth this season. And as you can see, if we hone in on the central midfield, is that you can see that there's a few players who are out of contract or who will be leaving in the summer. So we've got James Milner, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, and Naby Keita all out of contract in the summer. Artur Melo's loan didn't work out at all, and he'll be gone in the summer as well. So that leaves a few players left. I think it's worth splitting the players that are remaining between those who are quite young in the squad and those who are sort of coming towards the end of their career in the squad. So if we look here, we've got Harvey Elliott, Fabio Carvalho, Curtis Jones and Stefan Bajcetic all early on in their career. Harvey Elliott, Fabio Carvalho, 20 years old, Curtis Jones, 22. Stefan Bajcetic has had a breakout season this year, just 18 years old, but not going to be the sort of player that you're going to hang your hat on for the next couple of years. And at the other end, we've got players who aren't necessarily going to be close to retirement, but Jordan Henderson, Thiago, 32 years old, Fabinho is going to be 30 in October, so they're going to need to be replaced in the coming years anyway. So we need a sort of player who's going to be able to bridge between those who are really young and those sort of towards the end of their career, and be those who are kind of ready to play and impact Liverpool's midfield now. So what sort of profile of player will Liverpool be looking to recruit this summer? Well, let's first remind ourselves just of the sort of style that Jurgen Klopp likes his midfielders to play with. And that's one, first and foremost, based on intensity. Someone who's going to be able to be strong in the press, and that's something that Liverpool have been lacking quite a lot this season. But also someone who has the technical quality to be able to build through the thirds and build from defence into attack in the style of a Thiago. And I think it's important that Liverpool have a sort of player who's going to marry up that pressing intensity and that technical quality on the ball. And one player who is perfect in marrying those two up is Chelsea's Mason Mount. And I think it's important to acknowledge just how good he is out of possession. He does those intangible things really well in implementing his manager's tactics out of possession. But he's also really versatile, and I want to show that on the board. So on the board in front of me, I've got the share of minutes that Mason Mount has played for Chelsea since he broke into the first team. And what you can see, first of all, is he's played quite a lot of his minutes in a central attacking midfield role, quite often in that 3-4-2-1, either side of the two for Thomas Tuchel. But he's also played quite a lot in a central midfield role, which would be perfect, of course, for Liverpool. He's capable of playing in a midfield three on the left and the right as well, so it shows his versatility. And if you even wanted him across the front line, he's also able to play in wide areas as well. So a perfect, versatile option for Liverpool. But as much as his versatility and his out of possession play, let's focus on what he does on the ball. I think Mason Mount is an example of a player it's quite hard to quantify exactly what he does in the numbers, so it's really useful to give some examples of what he does in his all-round play. So what we've got here on the board is Chelsea looking to progress the ball through the thirds. Kalidou Koulibaly on the ball, looking to play the ball to Mason Mount somewhere near the halfway line here. I think it's important to look at Mason Mount here in the fact that he's looking away from the ball before it even reaches him. So as well as his intelligent scanning to look at where he's going to play the next pass before he even receives the ball, it's worth looking at the location of where he's actually looking to pick up the ball. And he's dropped into sort of the cover shadow between the midfield line and the defensive line there. So looking to receive these progressive passes in lucrative areas in the middle third. But it's also important to look at him in more advanced areas as well. And that's where he's going to be doing a lot of his creative work against set blocks. When you're playing for an elite side, you're looking to maybe find little pockets of space in more congested areas. So let's look at it on the board here, and we can see Koulibaly again in more an advanced area, looking to play the pass to Mason Mount. He's dropped in from the attacking line and looked to drag a player with him. You can see again, he's looking over his shoulder there to see who he's brought with him. So on this next slide, you can see that Mount has just dragged Roersleff out of position towards the ball, and that's created a bigger gap across Brentford's back line, and that space has been exposed here by Kai Havertz. And Mount could easily play a simple pass, square ball to Jorginho, or we can do what he does and punch it into Kai Havertz into space. So I think it's important to note just how much Mount looks to receive progressive passes in those pockets, which are really lucrative, but he also likes to punch balls and progress the play himself with his own passes as well. So in Mason Mount, you've got a player who's really strong out of possession, but also a player who's so strong in possession. And the combination of those things is really rare to find in a midfielder. So he'd be perfect for a Jurgen Klopp midfielder. And the good news is he might be available this summer given his contract situation where he's running into the final year of his contract, so he might be available at a bit of a cut price so that Chelsea don't lose him for free next summer. So look out for Mason Mount. Another midfield option who is very versatile in the way that they play is Alexis Mac Allister. He's been rumoured with Liverpool quite a lot in recent weeks, and you can see why. He arrived at Brighton in more of a number 10 role, which is what he played quite often in Argentina, but he's able to play as a central midfielder as well. And he's played quite often in a defensive midfield role alongside Moises Caicedo in Roberto De Zerbi's 4-2-3-1. So let's talk about Alexis Mac Allister's key attributes. I think one of his main ones is that of a playmaker. Whether he's playing in a number 10 role, central midfield, defensive midfield, he's always looking to advance the play, get the ball into forward areas. And I want to show an example of that here. So on the board, I've got what looks like a simple example of Mac Allister receiving the ball and playing a forward pass, but it's really intelligent the way in which he does it. So you can see that he's already looking away from the ball before he's receiving the pass from Carey here. And as you can see here, Mac Allister plays a lofted ball over the top behind Leeds' defensive line into Pervis Estupiñán. And it might look like a simple action, but he does it with such pinpoint accuracy as well. And actually, if you look at the numbers, Mac Allister has one of the lowest turnover rates in the Premier League among all central midfielders. And that's essentially how often he loses the ball, given the total touches that he has. So not only does he have really good accuracy, but he has really good ball retention as well. I think this is also interesting from a tactical point of view, the way that Mac Allister plays. Brighton, similar to Liverpool, drop the centre forward into more midfield areas, drop a little bit deeper and allow those players from wide to make those runs into more advanced areas. And it's the same with Liverpool, playing more of a false nine role with either their wingers or fullbacks bombing on. And if you've got a player like Mac Allister able to play the ball in over the top and with pinpoint accuracy, then he's a really valuable asset. So Alexis Mac Allister really neatly fits the tactical style of a Jurgen Klopp midfielder. He's potentially not as strong out of possession as a Mason Mount, but he more than makes up for it with his on-ball style. I think it's really interesting to see how much he dovetails with his Brighton defensive midfield partner, Moises Caicedo, who's probably quite the opposite in his midfield style and also a potential option for Liverpool. So let's have a look at how Caicedo's profile looks in the data. So what I've got in front of me is what's called a ternary plot, and it essentially looks to map a player's profile across three attributes. You've got the attacking contribution, the defensive volume, and how much the player looks to progress the ball as well. And what you can see is that Caicedo is one of the most active ball winners in Europe. His profile very much geared towards the defensive side of this plot, but that's not to say that he can't progress the play as well. And I want to show an example of that on the pitch. So as you can see here, Brighton are working back towards their own goal as Crystal Palace are looking to attack, and Caicedo essentially is looking to snuff out the danger, and he does it really well here. He always looks to get his body between man and ball really well, so that's his defensive action coming into play, but he doesn't look to just simply make a 5-yard pass to the nearest player towards him. He looks to punch a ball into attacking areas as quickly as he can. So as soon as Caicedo wins the ball back here, you can see that he's looking to instantly get Brighton on the attack and play that searching progressive ball to here, in this case, Pervis Estupiñán on the left-hand side. So he's very destructive in his defensive actions, but he's also able to have the technical quality to be able to play those progressive balls forward. He's also able to play in more of a central midfield role. He does that for his country as well as for his club sometimes, to play more as a number 8 as well as a defensive midfielder. And again, the profile of player that Liverpool want, a versatile player who's able to be strong off the ball and be really strong on the ball, marries up perfectly with Caicedo. He's probably the closest player in style to a Jude Bellingham, so if you're looking to him, you wouldn't get him at a cheap price, but he would be the profile of player that Liverpool should be getting. So who else? Well, Liverpool have been rumoured quite a lot with Ryan Gravenberch as well this season, playing for Bayern Munich at the moment, but hasn't had too many minutes in Germany. So for that reason, we're going to look at his data from his final season in the Eredivisie at Ajax. So on the board here, I've got some data looking at all midfielders with 900 minutes or more in the Eredivisie last season. So Ryan Gravenberch's final season at Ajax. And what it essentially looks to do is look at the share of passes that are progressive. So that's 10 yards or more in terms of punching the ball forward from a passing perspective, also from a carrying perspective. And anyone within this right quadrant here is someone who does both of those actions to a high degree. And as you can see here, Gravenberch very much in this right quadrant here, so it shows just how strong he is or how often he looks to progress the play with his passes and with his carry. So picking the ball up in the defensive third and looking to get the ball as quickly as possible into the attacking play, which is again essential for a Liverpool style player. Gravenberch hasn't played that many minutes for Bayern Munich this season, but it doesn't mean that he's not still a really good player. He's still so young and could be a really cost-effective option for Liverpool this summer if he's available. Final option, Youri Tielemans. Now, his stock has probably fallen quite a bit this season on a personal level, but also because Leicester City are struggling. But it doesn't mean that he might not be a good player for Liverpool's squad, if not their first team. Could be available on a free as well this summer. So again, cost effective from Liverpool's perspective. And it's worth looking at just where he has his touches on the pitch. And on the board here, we've got his share of touches so far this season. You can see quite a clear cluster on that right-hand side where he's quite active. And that makes sense because Leicester will often play in a 4-1-4-1 or sometimes in a 4-2-3-1 where he'll drift towards that right-hand side. But I think from Liverpool's perspective, this could be quite interesting because if we're thinking of someone to replace Jordan Henderson in the medium to long term, Tielemans could be that player who's linking up with Mohamed Salah, with Trent Alexander-Arnold in those triangles that Liverpool often like to play in their interchange within those attacking areas. So Tielemans could be that person. He's also able to progress the ball really nicely, but also able to look after possession. Still quite young as well, only 25 years old, but comes with a lot of Premier League experience. So from Liverpool's perspective, it can give them confidence that he's able to make the step up if he were to join. I think there are some question marks over him defensively, not too intense in the press, but given that Liverpool could get him on a free, it could be a risk worth taking. So there you have it, my 5 options that I think Liverpool could recruit this summer. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Who else should they maybe be looking at? Let us know in the comments below.
If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Athletic is home to some of the world's best sports journalists, including journalists dedicated to each Premier League team, so every fan gets the coverage they deserve, not just the big clubs. And you can try it for free now for 30 days. See the link in the description.